Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm doing the astrology report for the full moon in Capricorn, which takes place on the 28th of June at 4:52 AM Universal Time, which is equivalent of 5:52 AM Universal Time here in the UK, because the clocks are forward for the summer months. Now, before I go into the actual explanation of what the full moon in Capricorn means for us, I just want to clarify as always that the astrology of the full moon doesn't control us in any way, shape or form. It merely helps us to understand the kind of spiritual influences that are taking place at this particular time, what kind of energies are present, and what kinds of lessons we can potentially learn at this time. But it's up to each and every one of us to actually learn the lessons. They don't just happen automatically. We actually have to participate with it. Now, in terms of the full moon in Capricorn, this basically involves the sun in Cancer, who's been there since the solstice, and opposite the moon in Capricorn. So the sun in Cancer is all about working on our internal nature, stripping away the different layers of conditioning that cause our emotions to be tied up with egoic responses. So what I mean by this is, if we think about something, we get an automatic emotional response to it. So just learning to separate the two out. And it's also going inwards, exploring our emotions, exploring our feelings, and exploring our personal unconscious, which is something that only we can do. No one else can do it for us, because it's the part of us that only we ourselves actually have access to. So if we want them to grow as such, then we have to go inwards and learn to separate or create space between our emotions and our thoughts, so that whatever emotions we do feel are based on present circumstances rather than past conditioning. But the thing is, when the sun's in Cancer, one thing we need to be mindful of is any tendency to indulge in navel gazing. So we're so focused on looking inwards and facing emotions that we forget to look at our relationship with the external world. And this is where the moon in Capricorn comes in. Capricorn brings the necessary objectivity to balance out Cancer subjectivity, and it reminds us to look outside ourselves as well, to not just focus on ourselves at the expense of everything else. It's understanding that we're part of a wider whole. We're not some person who's more special than anyone else. We share a planet with billions of other souls, and it's up to us to take responsibility for our lives and become the author of our own lives. It's not enough to sit at home all day doing sweet sod all. It's not enough to understand our own emotional nature. We actually have to take action in the external world in order to make sure that the lives that we're living are actually aligned with our core nature. Just understanding our emotional wiring or emotional tendencies isn't enough. We actually have to take responsibility for our emotions, and we have to take responsibility for our own lives through taking more conscious actions as we're going along, and making sure that we're not just navel gazing or engaging in any kind of woes me. It's about seeing what changes do we need to make, practically speaking, in our lives in order for the external world to see us for who we are. But for this to happen, it means that we need to drop the masks. So part of the full moon is an opportunity for us to see, where do we wear a mask, especially in places ruled by Capricorn, which tends to be the work environment, career, social environments. So generally impersonal scenarios as opposed to the more personal ones of relationships or family. It's about seeing how are we actually living our lives aligned with who we are, or are we wearing a mask to gain approval, but we're not loved for who we are as such, and we don't feel particularly at home in the world. So we may be taking action, we may be pursuing goals, but because they're not right for us, we feel like frauds. And there's a bit of a double whammy with this particular full moon, in the sense that the ruler of the full moon, Saturn, is almost exactly conjunct the moon, or rather the moon is almost exactly on Saturn. So with Saturn retrograde as well at this time, this is an opportunity for us to look at ourselves, to go within us and see what kind of ego structures keep us pretending to be something that we're not? Where do we continue to take actions that are based on pursuing someone else's dream? So we may well achieve worldly success, but we don't feel any kind of satisfaction from it because what we're doing isn't aligned with who we are. So Saturn is also reminding us at this time, as he's going through his home sign, that it's not enough to know stuff. We actually have to live in alignment with our understanding of the high nature of things. It's not enough for us to pursue things for our own benefit. We need to understand what the karmic consequences of doing something that isn't right for us, or what are the karmic consequences of doing something which is immoral, where we're pursuing a goal at the expense of others. So it's learning to set goals that are right for who we are, but will not rely on exploiting or manipulating other people to get what we want. And it's also about taking away the different crutches that we hold on to, whether it be certain beliefs that we've held on to, certain ways of doing things or course of action that we've clung to because we're used to doing things a certain way. And how can we take a more empowered course of action? How can we take a more disciplined and focused course of action towards our goals? And how can we apply a high level of awareness to the goals so we're not creating karma for ourselves? So this particular full moon has a very strong emphasis on the need for objectivity right now, and the need to balance the subjective with the objective. It's because we need to be in touch with our feelings, we need to be in touch with the core sense of self, but likewise we also need to be working in the world as well. So it's taking responsibility for the part we play in our environment, the part we play in various, if we're employed, what roles we play in certain issues there. But more importantly, it's where are we hiding who we are? Where are we relying on being blasé or pretend to be something that we're not in order to get ahead? And what price are we going to pay for doing that? So, as I said, these are the themes that the full moon is highlighting. It doesn't mean that things are going to happen to us. We all participate in one way or another. But if we apply our own awareness to the situation and we work with the themes of the full moon rather than pretend to be not, or trying to make things happen at the expense of others, then we're much more likely to grow from it, to become empowered from it, and to feel that sense of satisfaction where we feel at home in the world because what we're doing is who we are. So it's the whole what you see is what you get. Our actions are aligned with our words, and the goals we're pursuing are alignment with our core sense of self. We're not sacrificing our sense of self in order to become successful in something that doesn't actually gel well with us. So Hertz's useful guide for the full moon. It brings us all a major opportunity for significant growth, an opportunity for us to take greater responsibility for the way our lives pan out, and a greater degree of responsibility for the actions that we take in our day-to-day lives, and understanding how we fit in with the world and what is our personal niche in the world, as opposed to what niche are the people trying to get us to fill for their benefit. So Hertz's useful guide for the full moon in Capricorn. I hope it brings much growth and many blessings, and a greater degree of self-understanding through knowing your internal world, also making sure that what you're doing in the external world mirrors that core sense of self rather than hides it or suppresses it. So may you get many blessings from the full moon. Take care.